Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. Finally, if you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide, available on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Most homeowners don't have the time or expertise to properly take care of their home, which causes costly issues to arise. That's where Kira Home Maintenance comes in. We're a full-service, routine maintenance company that was developed by a certified home inspector. Each quarter, we service our clients' homes following manufacturer's recommendations to properly maintain all the necessary appliances. We provide the materials and expertise to prolong the life of your property, creating a healthy and efficient environment for your family. From top to bottom, we'll maintain and service your home. To get started, we have a property inspection to determine what needs to be maintained, and a maintenance plan is created based on your preferences. From refrigerator coils to filters, vents, and drains, we do it all, and we do it well. Contact us today for your free routine maintenance inspection, and never worry about your maintenance again.
You know how this works, Josh. You make videos.
I do. I got the whole intro down packed. Yeah. Memorized. Yeah. I try to be fun with it though. Try to get creative.
Yes. How are you, sir? Are you you're in Houston today?
I'm in Houston, Texas. Yes. Canadian born, but now an American.
I'm trying to. Have you said y'all? Are you saying y'all, or what are you doing?
It's so funny. So I've had a client. I've been working with them for about 4 years. I've been working with them since I was back in Canada. And recently I had a meeting with them, and I threw in a y'all there, and they just burst out laughing. And they're like, "Next, you're gonna have a cowboy hat and cowboy boots." And I'm like, I actually, funny enough, I just got some cowboy boots for the Houston rodeo. So
Did you? Okay. All
I sure
right.
did. I sure did. So slowly becoming a Texan.
Have you been to the rodeo before? A big one?
No, no, nothing like this. Like we do have a big one up in Canada, called the Calgary Stampede, which is very well known up there. But yeah, the Houston rodeo really blew me away.
If you can get down close enough towards, if you can walk down close to the front row when the bulls are out in the arena, like, man, you just don't realize how massive they are until you get close, and then you get close and you're like, human beings get on these things? Like, what guys get on these things?
Crazy, man. I was looking at some of those guys and I'm like, oh my God, you could never in a million years catch me on one of those things.
Right now, have you learned how to two-step yet? Can you two-step? Have you gone dancing?
I tried and I failed miserably. But I had to try. I had to try at least once.
Okay.
I'll
All
take
right.
lessons or something. But
I highly recommend. So just so you know, that's how I met my wife. So I had moved down to Austin,
mhm.
and I grew up in Oklahoma. So you would think I would already kind of maybe know, but I didn't. So anyway, I was living in Austin and I was single, and I was trying to go out to these honky tonks to meet chicks and stuff. And man, all those guys knew how to dance, right? And they were just and I knew right away, like, wow, okay, if you know how to dance, like, almost any girl will dance with you, even if she's
Yeah.
above your pay grade, so to speak, right? And so I took some lessons, and man, after that, yeah, I would go to the honky tonks and I would just ask any girl to dance, even if she was a 9 or whatever, if she was way out of my pay grade, if she saw that I knew how to dance, they would usually say yes.
Oh, you're giving
And
away the secrets here, Steve.
yeah, man.
I might have to take lessons.
Yeah, that's how I met my wife, Kim. We were outside of Austin at a two-stepping joint. But anyway, well, now you got the boots. You'll have to take some lessons.
Yeah, 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 sure thing.
So you're from Canada, right? You grew up there, high school, college, whatever. Give
Yeah.
us the story, Josh.
So yeah, I grew up maybe about 45 minutes outside of Montreal. So small little city, under 40,000 people. never was really exposed to the real world. Like it was very, I almost want to say it, a very sheltered life. Wasn't exposed to different cultures, different food, like never eaten like things like sushi or like all these foods that are just so normal living in the big city. So yeah, I went to high school there, got really good grades. Was I don't know if I fit into a specific circle. I wasn't a jock. I was very, very skinny growing up. I played some sports, played hockey. I mean, everybody in Canada, of course, you're gonna play
Yeah,
hockey.
right. You almost have to.
A rite of passage. Yeah. So I did, I played some hockey. But yeah, I mean, I was good in my academics, got good grades. And when I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, at 18, most people don't. So I
Right.
talked to my high school guidance counselor, and he's like, "Well, you have good grades in biology and you have good grades in chemistry. Why not biochem?" I was like, "Sure, let's give it a shot." And yeah, I went to this rather prestigious university in Canada. And as I said, I really wasn't ready. At 18, I was not mature for my age. I was a little bit of a partier, to tell you the truth.
Were you a part of you in high school too, or when you went to
A
college?
little bit, yeah,
All
a
right.
little bit, and it only
All right.
exacerbated when I got to college. So I can honestly say that I went to this prestigious university, studied biochem. I wasn't really loving my program, just wasn't passionate about it.
Okay.
And instead of going there and focusing on my studies or networking, I just kind of partied a lot that first time around.
Why
And
not?
why not? Exactly. But the other interesting thing was that when I got there, I was exposed to all these different cultures, all these different people, ways of thinking, and it just really opened my mind to all these things that I didn't know before. And that's again the thing of living in a big city is you're suddenly exposed to these new ways of life, and it
Okay.
was no longer this small-minded little boy from Canada. Suddenly, I was around people from different countries, people of extreme wealth. And I was just like, wow, like this is how the rest of the world lives. So it was definitely an experience, but as I said, I didn't love my program. And then in my third year, I switched over to computer engineering. And this is going back to 10, 12 years ago. So before, this whole phrase behind all this like digital transformation and all of that. So
Okay.
at the time, people thought I was crazy. Like you're going in from biochem to computer engineering. Like it was nowadays, I mean, that's a no-brainer. But back then it was like, and I can't even remember exactly why I decided that. I think I was like really into video games. I was like, oh, I'll be a game designer, just and it was
Uh,
one of those things that when I got into it, it just clicked right away. It was like, wow, like I really love doing this. And it was more hands-on as well. Whereas like the University of Biochem stuff, it was a lot of theoretical work, a lot of lab work. This was like very hands-on, writing code, networking, debugging, all of these different things.
okay.
And I mean, looking back, when I graduated from that program, I got hired the day I left school, like the day, into a small startup up in Canada. I was actually in Ottawa, Ontario, which is close by to Montreal.
Okay.
And looking back at all these people that I went to school with at biochem, there wasn't a lot of opportunity in that field unless I went on to do like a master's or a PhD,
Mm,
which again, I
mm.
didn't love school. Most of the people that I was in that program with, like, went on to do other things, work at banks or became teachers or stuff like that. So, I think it was just one of those things where it's just right place, right time, and
That's
just
great.
kind of ended that opportunity and developed my love for tech.
Is that where you got the startup bug too? Because the first company you
I
worked for was a small startup, and then
I
you got the
did,
passion
yeah,
for it.
and I absolutely loved that. It was again, so I started off as a computer programmer, but in a small startup like that, you wear many hats.
Oh
Like
yes.
And that was perfect for somebody who was coming out of college, who was hungry, who was willing to work 80-hour weeks. Like they probably loved me.
Right.
But
Yeah, no
but there
doubt.
I was doing everything. I was doing front end development. I was doing back end development. I was doing databases, cloud, infrastructure, all of this different stuff. So it just allowed me to explore all these different aspects of a tech company.
Okay.
And it gave me that well-rounded background to where I could decide like, okay, I really like cloud. Like, let's go full-blown cloud, or I liked some of this back-end development stuff. Let's go that way. And it allowed me to experiment and try out different things.
Was your mom and dad, were they tech computer? What'd your folks do?
Not at all. They were definitely did not come from that entrepreneurial background, which is also why, again, when I get into talking about my business after, why this was a shock to a lot of people. They were both government workers, both government workers. That whole mindset of, go to college, get a good job, stay in that job for 40 years, and then collect a pension and then retire at 65. That was their
That's
mindset, and many people that I was associated with, that was their exact mindset as well.
and they both did that. And are your folks retired now?
Yeah, they actually just both recently retired, and they were just up and visiting me in Houston a couple of weeks ago. So that was nice. They were able to take a nice trip down here for
Oh,
2 or 3 weeks, and we did some of that touristy stuff down here.
are you the only child, or did you have some siblings?
So yeah, I have a younger brother, who's 3 years younger than me, and then a younger sister who's 6 years younger than me. Um,
I see.
yep.
Okay. All right. And did they follow your parents' path, or did they follow your path of entrepreneurial spirit?
They followed my parents' path, and they had never left that small city, that small town that we grew up in. And again, bless their heart, like they're super happy. They both are starting their own families. They both love their jobs, and they all think I'm crazy for having moved down to Texas. And
Uh,
they watch a little too much Fox News and CNN, and they're always yeah, always worried
uh,
about me down here.
that's pretty good. So you're the only rebel that left town. So when you
I
go
am.
back, you got to go around and see all the family members and make your rounds.
Exactly. And they're always, they're just always so curious. They have a million questions for me. And they're just like,
That's
and I
pretty.
tell them, like, I tell them about like, how much I love Texas and how much I love America, and just, how much I've thrived since getting here.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's awesome. So you do like it. You like the barbecue. You like the. There's how do you like the food? Well, there's great barbecue, great beef, and great Mexican food in Houston, right? Like
Yeah. Going back to my background, like I said, sheltered life, never tried these different foods. And like, I just had brisket for the first time 1 year ago, if you can believe that.
what? Well, you got to be.
I don't know why that's not a thing up in Canada. Like brisket, like, oh my God, life changing.
Are you serious? That is wow. I did not know that. So that is fascinating to me. Like brisket was just so
I mean, we
normal.
definitely
So
have a lot of beef up there. Like we have cattle, maybe just my area of Canada. I'm sure maybe on the
that's
West
wild.
Coast,
That's
but
wild.
yeah, never tried brisket. I'm like, how have I never tried this? And like the ribs too, like those fall off the bone ribs, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, to die
Yeah.
for it.
Why did you pick Houston?
Yeah, so interesting story around that, because obviously I tried out a few cities before I landed on Houston.
Okay. You
Originally,
meaning you thought about it, or you actually moved there? You
before,
moved.
sorry, say again.
You said you tried out, meaning you moved to a couple of different
I,
cities.
I moved to a couple of different cities.
Oh,
I was
okay.
almost
All
a
right. All
nomad
right.
for about a year.
Oh, cool. Did you have
Yeah,
one of those? Did you have one of those vans, one of those Mercedes vans? You live in it, or what'd you do?
no, no, not quite. I had a car, but that thing was always packed to the brim, like with
Okay.
all my
All
computer
right.
equipment. That's the only thing I traveled with, my computer equipment. Everything else was disposable.
Where'd you go first?
So yeah, I'll kind of get to that. So I always did want to go to Texas. I had worked for a company back a few years ago, and they were based out of Dallas, Texas.
All right.
And they would fly me down to Dallas for a couple of weeks at a time.
Okay.
And something about the Southern hospitality that I was shown in Texas just always really vibed well with me. And so whenever I eventually got my visa and I made the decision to move to the US, I was like, I'm going to Dallas. Like that's where I'm going. That's where I've loved the people there. It's a growing city, cheap cost of living, no state tax, all of this.
Mhm.
And I was dead set on that. But actually I'd met a girl prior to, yeah, of course.
There's always Yeah,
always a
yeah.
girl involved. And yeah, she lived out in California. Her father was from Montreal and her mother was from California.
Okay.
So we met and my visa got delayed a little bit. And by that time we had, obviously gotten really close and she was planning on moving back to California full time, Santa Barbara, which is maybe an hour or two north of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what the heck? I'll try out California. I heard the weather's beautiful. I heard it's, a great style of living. And yeah, I ended up moving, took everything that I owned, sold my condo in Montreal, packed up everything into my small car and my computer equipment. I had a cat too. And we took off and we drove all the way from Montreal to Los Angeles, 44 hours, not in one stop, but it
Wow.
was it was quite the trek, leaving everything behind and just, yeah, hitting the open road.
How about that?
Yeah,
And let me guess, that didn't work out with that girl.
that unfortunately did not work out. Yes. As,
Uh,
as you would have predicted, and as many people had warned me. But you know what? I had to try. So yeah,
all right.
unfortunately, we didn't work out. So I spent about 2 or 3 months in California, and I was like, you know what? Cost of living here is just through the roof. High taxes. I was already again in Quebec, where taxes are some of the highest in North America. In fact, I think they are income taxes. So it's like I'm leaving one high state, high provincial tax place, and then I'm going to this other high state tax place. And even though it's beautiful, and I could see myself retiring from there. I just don't think it was a good place to run my business from.
Yep. Gotcha.
Um, and then after that, I moved to Las Vegas. And that was, I don't know what my decision was behind that. Again, I think I was looking for, having come from California, I was like, you know what? Vegas, cheap cost of living relative to California, no state tax, lots of entertainment. So tried that
Single
out for
guy,
about
single
single
guy.
guy, newly single guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
why
hey,
not?
why not? Go for it.
That would come back to bite me. Yeah. Vegas is yeah, it's an interesting city. Let's keep it at
You
that.
got it. You got that right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the few cities I go to where I always feel like I always feel like I'm doing this. I always feel like I'm looking behind my shoulder. Like somebody's there every time somebody talks to me there, I'm like, okay, what's the scam here? What's the
Oh,
catch?
that was my experience as well. As everybody had an angle, everybody was
Yes.
working or something.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God, like what is so
Uh,
yeah, and ultimately it came down to that there's not a lot of tech in Vegas. It's mostly the
okay.
gaming industry, and for myself running a tech company, it just didn't make sense for me.
Okay.
So then next, I had a good friend who was currently living in Austin, Texas, and he's like, "Man, like you got to come to Austin. Like this city is so vibrant." This is like maybe right after the pandemic, so it was starting to blow up
Oh yeah.
and
All those people from California that felt locked down. They're like, let's go to Texas. We can do whatever we want there.
exactly. So I was like, "Oh, you know what? It's Texas." I wanted to go to Dallas after that, but it's like, I'll give Austin a try. And so I went down there, and don't get me wrong, I love Austin, beautiful city, lots to do outdoors, beautiful people, nice people. But oh my God, the cost of living there
A little
was
more
also
expensive. Yep.
more
Yep.
expensive.
Yep.
Cost to get an office, cost to acquire talent. Like it was just like
Yep.
astronomical because you have all these people leaving Silicon Valley and going to Austin and
That's right.
expecting that same salary range. And I could not compete in that city. And don't get me wrong, I pay well, but it's just, yeah, that is just
I
on
hear
another
you.
level.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
finally I was like, okay, this isn't it either. I was like, I still want to go to Dallas. I still want to go to Dallas. But I was like, you know what? Like I've heard some good things about Houston. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a few weeks. Let's give it a little bit, and let's see what this city has to offer. And it's only 2.5 hours away. So it was like, and I had gone and visited, and I had a great time. Just went for a weekend. It was like, like I like this city. And then yeah, so I got down here, and at first I didn't love it. I moved right downtown Houston, and the Houston downtown is not as vibrant as like an Austin or a Montreal or a New
Right.
York.
Yep. It's not the same. Yeah. Mm-mm.
No, it's kind of desolate. Like after 5 o'clock, like there's nothing going on. So like, and I lived right downtown. I'm like there's nothing to do here. Like it's
Mm.
but eventually I met the right people and they showed me all these different pockets of Houston where there's just so much going on. There's so many cool, trendy neighborhoods. It's a growing city. There is a ton of industry, oil and gas,
Oh,
medical, lots of opportunity for my business, cheap cost of living. I'm looking to buy a home very soon, so very affordable. We just got offices, got a great deal on that. And then the talent here is definitely much, much more affordable than some of the other cities I lived in.
and you, for the listeners, now you were able to do these moves because all the jobs and you had and the work you were doing at the time, you could do remotely, so you were able to do it from anywhere.
Right, right. And at that time, because again, I'd started my business during the pandemic. So obviously everything was remote at that point. And then I had clients all over the place. I have some clients in Arkansas, I have some over on the West Coast in like
Okay.
Bakersfield, and I have some up in New York. So up
Okay.
until then, and even like post-pandemic, a lot of my clients were remote.
Okay.
And there wasn't a whole lot of flying going on at that time. I was able to do most of what I did remotely.
Yeah.
That being said, I do want to start now that I'm in Houston and now that I know that I'm here for good. I do want to really focus on the local market, setting up relations, networking, and really dominating the local Houston market. And there is no shortage. I don't have to go out of state. I don't have to go fly to California or fly to New York. Like this city alone could easily sustain my business. So that is my
Okay.
game plan, and that's where I'm moving forward. I've made a bet on Houston, and I'm hoping it pays off.
Okay. Now let's talk about the business. So before we get into business, let's one more personal question. So all the listeners, especially the ladies, are going to be wondering, what is Josh? What's going on? Is he married? Is he kids? Is he single? I mean, he looks like a. I'm surprised when you were in Santa Barbara, you didn't go down and try out for a Hollywood movie or something. I mean, you look like a star. You look like an actor. I'm surprised somebody would pick you up. I mean, what's the
Yeah.
status with the social life?
I mean, I am single. It's been very hard to date. Obviously, I've been looking for that special someone, but with all that moving around, it's hard to build out those relationships when you're hopping around every 2 to 3 months and going to a new
That's
city.
true.
So
Yeah.
like I said, now that I'm staying put in Houston and now that I want to be here, I'm
We'll
getting
see.
back out onto the dating scene. And
All right. All right. You look like you're in great shape, by the way. What,
oh,
you hit the gym every day or what?
every day, man. That's obviously when I first started working out, that was more for vanity reasons, the obvious. I was a tiny, skinny little stick in high school. Like,
Is that
believe me.
right?
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that. Wow.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. People see me nowadays and they're like, wait, is that the same Josh? Like they just night and day. And yeah, obviously I started working out, to get women to buff up and all of that. But these days it's more about for my mental stability. Like I am in a high stress environment. I'm
Yeah.
dealing with clients that can sometimes be a little pain in my behind.
You mean all clients aren't like super awesome? I mean, that's so weird. No, I'm just gonna be.
Wow.
I mean, it's just like, oh my, yeah, that's for yeah. We could do a whole hour podcast on that
Oh
topic.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
anyway, go ahead. Go ahead. Stress
No,
environment.
and I was just like, you know what? Instead of taking my frustrations out on them, just kind of bottle it in. And then when I go to the gym at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I just like release all of that stress and just bring it out on the weights. And to those days where I'm the most frustrated, I have the best workouts.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Are you doing? What do you do for cardio?
So right now, yeah, I do cardio. I don't need to do a lot of cardio. I'm an easy, like I lose weight easily, but
Okay.
I just like to, speed up the metabolism, keep the heart healthy. I'll do about 10 to 15 minutes on the Stairmaster.
Okay.
I have one in my building actually every morning, like clockwork, 6:30
Okay.
a.m. on that.
Okay. So you're doing some cardio in the morning, and then you do your lifting in the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah. I find that gives me more energy throughout the
Okay.
day, drink less
Okay.
coffee. And then I find I always try to do my workout around maybe 2 to 3 in the afternoon, avoid that 5 o'clock rush. Again, one of the benefits of having your own business, being able to go to the gym whenever you want,
Okay.
or whenever I can fit it in between meetings. But but yeah, I find it's a good way to break up my day. That midday hump, I guess you could say. And at that point, I've had to deal with a few things in the morning, put out a few fires, and I'm like, okay, I need to go to the gym.
Now I've heard that it's super taboo to try to hit on chicks at the gym. Like that's a no-no, apparently. Is that true or
Um, they mostly come up to me.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. That's a good thing.
yeah. It's a good problem to have. Yeah,
That's good.
when I'm there, I'm in the zone. I got my headphones on, I got my hat down, I got maybe my hoodie on, and I'm just like there, and it's just no phone calls, no emails, no nothing. I turn all my notifications off, and I'm like, doesn't matter like what's happening in the day. Like I am finding that 1 hour a day to get
Yep.
my workout in, and that's to avoid burnout. Like because I've burnt out many times in my career.
I couldn't agree more. Last thing we'll say on that topic is, you know, I'll be 57 in August.
Mhm.
And so now I do it for the mental, because I
Yep.
just always feel better. I mean, if I skip a day, I just, I always feel like crap. Like if I skip, right? I
Yes, me
just,
too.
it's like, I just don't feel, I don't know. I just don't feel right if I skip. And sometimes I will, like maybe a Sunday or whatever. If Kim and I, we kind of, okay, we're going to just kind of chill today.
Mhm.
But I still, it's like, I wish I would have done a little something this morning. So I just for mental for me, it just feels great.
People don't get that. It's people
Uh,
ask me like, "Oh my God, you're crazy. How do you find the time?" And I'm like, at this point, it's not motivation. Like motivation will only get you so far. At this point, it's a habit. It's like,
yep,
you know what? It's 2 o'clock. My body's telling me it's time to go work out.
yep,
And it's been that much of a habit. It's been ingrained into me over the last 10 years that
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's I don't even have to think twice about it.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely great. I encourage everybody to do something. The key, and I'm not a personal trainer, so I'm not trying to give out personal training advice, but I just think the key is to do something. Everybody thinks, well, I'm not going to look like Josh. Okay, well, you don't have to look like Josh. Just do something, anything.
Like just something, like just getting better day over day. Like that's all I say. Like people like, I mean, even if it's 10, 20 minutes, like just
Yeah,
something is better than nothing. And then slowly over time, you build that, and then you build a body that you're proud of, that
that's right.
you show
That's right.
off. Like so I've
Right.
always believed that too.
Okay. All right. So you're down in, all right. So let me make sure from a professional standpoint, did
Mhm.
you did you you were doing some contract work for Microsoft and moonlighting trying to start your own thing at the same time? Can you walk us through that? Yeah, yeah, give us the story there.
Yeah. I'll be a little careful about what I say here, but yeah. So I was employed full time at Microsoft, and believe me, like I was, my 9 to 5, I was 100% dedicated to that. Like this was an amazing learning opportunity for me. I worked with some of the best and brightest in the industry, and while I was there, I was a sponge. I soaked up everything that they put in front of me and just learned as much as I possibly could.
Okay.
But then meanwhile, again, I'm single. I got lots of time in my hands, no kids, no that. So I'm taking on contracts on the side as well and building out that side of my business. And basically, like what I'm doing is I'm taking those same principles that I'm learning at Microsoft, that I'm working with Fortune 10 companies, Fortune 20 companies, like very, very large enterprise clients that take their security very, very seriously. Yeah, just for the listeners out there, I'm on the Azure team specifically, so I'm a cloud guy by trade.
Okay.
So security, cost management. Again, these guys are spending hundreds of millions of dollars in cloud services, so we need to make sure that we're on top of the cost. And then scalability and resiliency. These guys go down for even 10 minutes, they're losing millions of dollars. So these are all important principles that I'm learning at a very large scale.
Okay.
So basically, the premise behind my business is that I started taking on some contracts on my own, and I'm applying these same principles that I learned at this high scale and bringing them down to the small to mid-sized business.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you want a little bit more about my business itself and like
I
what it
want
is.
to go right now is the perfect segue. So, by the way,
Yeah,
Lefebvre Solutions, it's Lefevre, Ware Solutions, Lefebvre Solutions. And
correct.
for the listeners, it is leftwaresolutions.com, right?
Yeah. So Left, again, my last name being Lefebvre. So the first four letters of my last name. And then when I originally started this business, it was more on the software side of things. So Leftware, like as in software
Ah,
solution. That's where the
all
name
right.
comes from.
All
And
right.
again, my name is French. So Lefebvre is a
Yeah.
French name for Montreal.
And by the way, Josh spells his name. If the listeners want to connect with him on LinkedIn, it's Joshua, and he spells and the last name is Lefebvre.
Yeah, that B is
And
silent. It messes everybody up.
messes everybody up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that good looking profile picture right there, man. Gee. Yeah, go ahead about the business. Give the 3 minute elevator pitch. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, going back almost 2019, pandemic is in full swing. All of these companies that are, currently on premise, having to go into the office to manage their servers, having to have all of their employees go in to connect to these servers and access their files, access their data. Suddenly the pandemic hits and everybody's working from home. Nobody's able to go in and access these sensitive files from their home. So I think this is one of those things where it's just right place, right time, with obviously having the right skill sets. Where we primarily focused on cloud migration early on. So helping these companies, again, SMBs, anywhere from 25 to 500, that's our sweet spots.
Okay.
Take all of their existing files, all of their data, all of their applications that might be running on servers like within their premise. And when I say on premise, like maybe they have a building and they have some servers, some physical servers there, and they want to move these into the cloud, whether it be Azure, Google Cloud Platform, or AWS. They want to move these into the cloud, but they want to do this in a secure, scalable, and cost-effective way.
Okay.
That's where we come in. We would help them with this transition into the cloud. So at
Okay.
that time, pandemic hitting, there's clients are literally just falling into my lap. There is
That's
such a
great.
demand. The healthcare industry specifically was just being so overloaded with, all these patients, all these patient intakes. So we had a lot of healthcare clients reach out to us to help out with their cloud migrations.
Okay.
And I was hardly doing any sales or marketing. Like I thought I was a genius, like I was.
You're calling mom and dad, and you're like, yeah, man, I got this going. I'm gonna sell this for $1 billion in about 5 years. It's all good.
No, I mean, it really thought like I just, the sky's the limit. Like there's no end to this. And as I'm sure we all soon find out, what goes up must come down.
That's pretty good. And is that big? All right. So now today, that's what you were doing at first, is all the cloud migration. As
Oh,
of today,
yeah.
it's that plus security. Like, what does the business provide today, right now?
Yeah. So obviously that footed the bills for many, many years. But as the pandemic has kind of slowed down, we're in 2024. Most companies are in the cloud or at least hybrid. Those cloud migration projects are becoming more and more difficult to come by. And
Okay.
those that are still not in the cloud, there is a lot of pushback. We're not going to convince them at this point. So
Yeah, you're talking about Johnny's welding service where,
yeah.
he's got 2 or 3 offices and they got some computers and he's 70 years old and he's like, I don't need
Oh,
to
I've
be in the cloud.
had a
Yeah.
few of those, and it's just, again,
Yeah.
a huge pain in my behind, and they're just not worth going after
Yeah,
anymore.
I got you. So, all right. So what have you pivoted to then with your services? Talk to us about it.
So, yeah, we're kind of in the process of this right now. We're exploring many different solutions and strategies, and I'll name a few of them. So, obviously now, like I said, I think something like 80% of companies are now in the cloud, but a lot of them are on very outdated cloud infrastructure. So we're coming in, we're doing an audit, we're looking at, okay, you have all these old servers. Yes, they're running in the cloud, but they might be still running Windows 2012 or an outdated version of Windows. So we're looking at ways to modernize their infrastructure. And by modernizing, they are obviously improving their security posture, having us come in and do that audit and looking for any kind of threats or vulnerabilities that they might not be aware of. Because again, just because you're in the cloud does not mean you're automatically secure.
Mm.
We're looking at cost optimizations. One of the big things that all major cloud providers are offering is these pay-as-you-go type services, or pay-as-you-use. So instead of having this server where you're just paying a monthly fixed rate, there's this new school of services called serverless, where basically you pay for what you use. So, if it's Christmas rush and you have a big sale going on, these servers are automatically able to scale up to meet that demand without anybody having to come in and do a thing. And then if it's, I don't know, it's Sunday and it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you don't have any users, it's able to automatically scale back down. And you're only paying for the actual servers or compute in this case that you're actually using. So that's been a big thing for a lot of our clients for the last couple of years. Another one that we're exploring is the security side of things.
Yes,
All
man.
ransomware, all these malware attacks that are all over the news these days. Oftentimes it's that, they're not patching their servers. There's leaving passwords out in plain text. They don't have multi-factor authentication. So just small little things like that having somebody like our experts at Lefebvre Solutions come in and just run an audit on their existing servers, on their infrastructure, and just looking for these tiny little vulnerabilities that might otherwise, everybody else has missed.
Okay.
And then finally, the other big one that I see right now is everybody's talking about AI, machine learning. What
Mhm.
nobody's really talking about is where is that actual data that is feeding into these models? Where's that coming from? Well, these companies, they have all these different departments. They have a sales department, they have a marketing department, they have maybe an operations, an IT department. They're all collecting data and they're all doing it in their own format, in their own way. Another opportunity that I see is for Lefebvre Solutions to come in to cleanse that data, to standardize that data, and to kind of create a common data model that we can then take a look at how the company as a whole is performing. And so, and then that basically allows these companies to make more informed, logical decisions by using their data, train these
Mm.
models, make predictions, gain business intelligence, insights, all of these things. So this is
Okay, got
I see the future.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I want to bite down on that last one
Yep.
here really good because I think that I mean I'm not an IT expert, but boy, that last service that you talked about I think is going to be huge.
Yep.
Um, and I can relate it to even our own business. So I want to ask you some questions about that.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
so yeah, the rave is AI,
Yep.
and I think any smart business is figuring out how to use AI to improve their business, whether it's efficiency or intelligence or whatever, right? Any smart business is trying to grab AI and make their business better. Um, I am doing that right now at Riderflex, our recruiting firm. And so let me give you some, these are probably small examples, but we could use them maybe as analogies or whatever to on something you would do that's bigger. But for me, like I'll give you a perfect example of what I think I heard you say. So I want my AI chatbot. Okay, I'm a Chat GPT guy. I know some people are Llama 3 and some people are Gemini or whatever. There's some people they pick their large language model, right? It seems like people are trying to figure out what large language model they want to use for stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, we're recording this on April 23rd, 2024 for the listeners. And so as of right now, people are trying to figure out what they want to use. All right. So currently I'm a Chat GPT guy. Okay. So I'm like, all right, I want my Chat GPT to talk to, I want my GPT to talk to my applicant tracking system that I use as a recruiter. Cause I got this other software I'm paying for, right, to house all my candidates and process candidates and make notes for candidates, and resumes come in and we move the candidates through stages. And so I've got this applicant tracking system that recruiters have been paying for the last 20 years. They've been using applicant tracking systems of some kind. Well, now I'm using ChatGPT for stuff too, whether it's job descriptions or resumes or matching job descriptions to resumes or having ChatGPT analyze something for me or whatever, or a candidate presentation. But I can't, but those two aren't talking to each other super easy yet.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, can Josh can just make those go together for me? Like, how do I make my summary rant there is
Yeah.
I want I love the AI, but I don't, as a small business owner, I'm still figuring out how to make the AI work best for me. And if
Yeah.
your company can do that, yes, please help me.
So I think you're kind of going about it the wrong way. Whereas,
Okay.
like,
Okay.
because over time, again, as your business grows, you're going to have more and more of these systems. And every time you bring in a new system, you're going to constantly have to integrate it into your AI. And
Okay.
that just doesn't scale very well. So
Okay.
what we actually suggest is for the company to create a central data reservoir. They're called like a data lake or a data lake house,
Okay.
which again, somewhere central. There's some great technology, whether using, and this is all cloud-based, like a cloud-based
Okay.
data reservoir where your data is secure, it's governed. You have like,
Okay.
access, like basically who can access it, who can't. And instead, this reservoir is what you're creating all your connectors to. And there's a lot of like pre-built connectors to this, like whether you're using like, Microsoft Dynamics or Salesforce, like it already has these connectors built into this. And basically, you're taking all of your data from all these different departments, all these different systems, and then you're centralizing it into this lake or this lake house.
Okay.
And within that lake house, you're standardizing your data because, as I was saying earlier, it's all in different formats. It's coming
Yes.
in at, yeah, like different fields, and then you're creating like a common data model across your entire business. So no matter whether you're in sales or you're in marketing, you understand this common data language model where, I don't know, a candidate ID is a candidate ID, and whether that's coming from a resume or from I don't know, like a different system, it's all standardized. And then once you have it in that centralized reservoir, you have tools that can actually go in and perform the analysis directly on that data to derive these insights.
And is
So
that tool eventually an agent built by AI?
it very well might be. I know there has definitely been some work looking into that, but yeah, these centralized reservoirs are the way that everybody's going, and that's why we're trying to get people to centralize their data so that's talking to each other. You don't have all these different data silos. You're not having to try to create all these different integration points between the different systems because that takes up a lot of time as
Oh
well.
my
Whereas,
gosh. Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
having everything centralized in one place, and then just having the right analysts in place to actually go in and derive insights from that.
And you can do that. You can build this lake for me, or you can build this lake for companies.
Correct. And that's where, again, so we're not doing the actual analysis, right? Like we're just like prepping your data so that you can then have an analyst or have a data scientist come in and actually derive the insights. We're just helping you cleanse, standardize, and centralize your data. We're setting up those processes and we're streamlining it so that it makes it super easy for that person to come in and already have what they want. I mean, we just had a client and they hired a data scientist, spent a lot of money on them, and their data was an absolute mess. And the data scientist, that's not his responsibility. He's not going in there and trying to understand, make sense of all these different data points and all these like CSV files and PDF files. That's not his job. So we're coming in and we're streamlining that so that when you do bring in this data scientist or you do bring in this analyst, they have the data that they need in the format they want to work with, and their job is simple and they can just hit the ground running and then get these insights or make these predictions for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Your company right now is growing,
Mhm.
and you're hiring, right?
Yep.
You're hiring for salespeople. You're hiring. Are you hiring more contract engineers, software engineers? Are you always
Yeah,
looking?
absolutely. And again, this is why I'm so happy to have a partnership with Riderflex. So
Thank you.
up until now, I have been a major bottleneck in my business. That is a realization that I finally come. It was I had this belief for a long time that I was the only one that could do the sales. I was the only one that could manage the clients. I was the only one that could, be the architect. And that was a belief that I had for a very long time. And for a while, it served me. I was doing all the things and I was the best at all the things. But eventually, I plateaued. I could
That's
not
exactly what happens. Yep. You can only get so big doing it all yourself.
only get so big. Exactly, exactly. And I realized that I was the bottleneck and that I needed some help. Now, in terms of hiring engineers, I've worked with engineers my whole life. I know exactly what to look for, what not to look for. But now when it comes to some of these other positions, these
Yeah.
sales-based positions or these business development,
HR, accounting, whatever, operations, anything you might need. Yeah.
I have no clue what I am looking for. I have no idea. These are soft skills. I am just not a soft skills kind of guy. So this is why I think my partnership with Riderflex is
Oh,
going
thank you.
to be essential. I mean, we've just started working together, and Steve has already provided me with some excellent candidates, absolute rock stars. And I'm like, these guys want to work for my company? Like, what? Really?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that plug. I appreciate it. I'm really happy for you and your business and the fact that you've had it now for, I guess you've been in business for 5 years.
Yeah, three, like, yeah. So I guess there was a point where I was able to leave my day job. So technically, yes, I've been in business for 5 years, but 3.5 where I've actually been able to
Yep.
leave my day job and do this full time.
Was it scary when you first quit that last paying full-time day job?
Not at
Were
all.
you?
I was
No.
making more in this side of things. So it was an easy,
Okay.
I know there's two ways of going. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna quit and hope for the best. And then there's the other people who kind of moonlight and then their side job ends up netting them more money than their actual day job. So for me, it was a very easy transition.
Well, yeah, and for the listeners, hey, listen, unless you've raised some angel funding to where you can just quit your job, and by the way, most angel funding is not gonna angels aren't gonna write you a check for your company just so you can pay yourself a big payroll.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so, most people have to moonlight or do double time it, right? They
Yeah.
most people, unless you're independently wealthy or you've raised some cash, and that's not the majority. The majority of business owners start doing it on the side most of the time, right?
Exactly. And again, I'm fortunate. I'm in consulting or any service-based business where I've been profitable since day one. So I never
That's
had
great.
to raise any kind of
Yeah,
money or anything like that.
good for you,
And for
man.
a while it was more of a lifestyle business. Like it was like, okay, I'm not really reinvesting a lot into the business and kind of taking everything out and funding my own lifestyle.
Yeah,
Recently I've gotten to that point where it's like, okay, no, you know what? I've lived a great life. I've done some amazing things. Time to kick this thing into overdrive,
good for
time to
you.
scale, to reinvest everything back into business, pay myself a salary just enough to get by. So that's the next chapter.
Good for you. The last thing I want to talk about is going a little bit back to the AI. I mean, I guess it's going to be critical, right? Absolutely critical for you to stay on top of what's happening with all of the launches with AI because it all can potentially affect your business, right? I mean, you
It,
got to really stay on top of what's happening, I would assume.
it really, and it already is affecting my business in many ways. I mean, companies, obviously, like we're coming in, we're consultants, and you've heard of, I'm sure, of all these tech company layoffs. A lot of that has to do with AI. Again,
Yes,
AI going
absolutely.
in,
Yep.
replacing people's jobs. So that's kind of trickled down to us on the solutions consulting side of things. So that's already affected us.
Mhm.
We take some software development projects. Those are becoming harder and harder to find. These AI tools that can just spit out code like that it's
Does
crazy.
it
But
does it worry you? Are you worried a little bit, or you're like, hey, I'm a hustler. I'll figure it out.
I'm
I'll
a
pivot. I'll
hustler.
figure it
Like
out.
again, I'm solution oriented. You give me a problem, I will find a solution. That's kind of like part of my growth mindset is like I am always on top of what I was, again, one of the early users of ChatGPT before even anybody knew what it was. And I leverage that tool. So I'm always staying on top of
Good for
those
you.
trends. And yeah,
Critical.
yeah, I imagine there's always going to be work out there for us to do. These days, it's more on the managerial side, managing things as opposed to the actual like writing code and stuff. But that's evolution. I'm evolving as the industry evolves.
Bingo. Perfect summary right there. I could not agree more on how you should approach it if you're listening to this episode. Like, hey, you're sticking your head in the sand, trying to pretend like tech it isn't going to change things, or oh, I'm not going to use AI or whatever. Like that, that is the wrong approach, in my opinion. You better figure out. You better pay attention, watch
Yep.
what's happening, grab a hold of it, and use it to be smarter, faster, stronger, wiser, more efficient. Like use it to your advantage. Fighting the technology advancement is not going to do anything except get you crushed by the competition.
And it's always been like that. In technology, it moves so fast. I feel bad for these guys. They've been in a job for 10 years working with the same technology, and they just never bothered to go out and learn like these new technologies. So whether it's AI or whether it's a programming language, and then suddenly they're out of a job and they have no marketability. They again, their resumes are all these outdated technologies
Yep.
that nobody's
Yep.
looking for. So you
Yep.
gotta stay on top of it.
I had this, we could rant about, I know we're almost out of time. We could rant about this for another 2 hours, but I had a recruiter. This is a perfect example of people that don't want to get on board. I had a
Mhm.
recruiter that was working for me. She no longer works for me, but she was working for me. And I said, listen, I said, that resume from the candidate, that really needs to be rewritten. Make sure you put that through ChatGPT to get a baseline to work off of and use all, here's my notes from the meeting. Use these notes and then put it in the ChatGPT, have it oh, I would never use AI to rewrite a resume. And I said, what are you talking about? I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, a human really a human needs to write it. I said, all right, her name's not Mary, but I'll just use Mary as an example.
Gotcha.
I was like, Mary, let me ask you a question. Do you use Microsoft Word to write the resumes? And she goes, oh yeah, well, of course. I said, do you use spell check and grammar check from Microsoft Word? Because that's kind of AI, isn't it? Like what, like, come on, like you can't pick and choose your AI. Like use the tools, whatever the tool is to be faster and more efficient, and then tweak
Absolutely.
it or whatever. You want to get a baseline from ChatGPT and then play with it or do whatever. Like you learn how to use the tools, stay
Yeah.
on top of it. Anyway,
They're tools. They're there to make our lives better and easier and more efficient. So why not use what's at our disposal? Like that makes, I mean, obviously proofread it, like go in and read
sure,
it. But
sure.
yeah, no, if that's going to make me better at my job, then I'm going to use that tool all day. I'm no shame.
One more. I have one more funny story on this one. This is my other favorite one. This I love this. I'm talking to a friend down at the pub or whatever. I'll hear somebody say, "Well, it's not perfect. Every once in a while it'll make a mistake." And this is how I answer. I go, "Oh, and humans are perfect when they do the work."
Far from it. Far from it. Myself included.
I'm like, "Come on, man, get over yourself." Anyway, all right. Lefebvre Solutions for the listeners. Lefevre, Ware Solutions, lefevresolutions.com. Please reach out to Josh if you need some support. Him and his team will be glad to help you. Josh, thanks for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.